Hey there, Steve here. Hope you're doing well. Have you ever had the experience of dialing in your amp to where it sounds good, and stepping on your favorite overdrive or distortion pedals only to have it all sound like a big mushy mess? I certainly have, and this is something that's taken me really years of messing around with amps and pedals to fix for myself. So in today's video I want to walk you through how I set up my rig to get a decent sound without it all sounding like a big mess. But what do a lot of guitarists get wrong about setting their amp? And are you doing this too? Well, this is a lesson I learned a long time ago. It all started when I was playing shows most weekends with my band. I'd find myself at different amps at different shows, and a lot of the time it's just in-house amps, and they're never the best quality. And I find myself spending ages trying to dial in the volume, the gain and tone, trying to get a half decent sound out of these amps. But when I went to click on my overdrives and my compressors and so on, it all just sounded like a big mess. This used to drive me crazy until one day a video popped up in my feed about dialing in pedals for amplifiers. I can't remember the exact video, but it was from the channel That Pedal Show. And basically I learned that in the pursuit of trying to dial in this amp, I've been turning the gain and the volume up too much, and basically the amp had nowhere more to go. So whenever I stepped on a pedal, I was just adding more distortion and more overdrive. So to demonstrate this in action, I've got my pedal board set up here, and I'll go through it with you through this video. But my amplifier that I'm using today is an amp simulation pedal by Universal Audio, and this is called the Dream 65, and it's a recreation of a Fender Deluxe reverb amplifier. And we have on the top here is the volume, which is essentially the gain into the amp. So if I turn that on and if I bring the volume up, you'll hear how it gets distorted. So let's say at a show you had it somewhere around here, and then you go to kick on your overdrive. Now it's getting a bit too much. So what we should do instead, and this applies to real amplifiers as well, is to bring that volume down and use it so we've got a bit of headroom. So now basically whenever I boost any overdrives or volume into the pedal, it's not going to clip so quickly and not overdrive so fast. And there are two main reasons I do this. One, because I want to control all of the sound and sculpt my sound with my pedal board here, and this works for whenever I play shows, which I haven't done in quite a while, I must admit, but it means that I can just set whatever amplifier is at that show, set it to have a bit of headroom on it, and then set the tone relatively flat, and then use my pedals to do the rest of the work. And with my setup here, there is another consideration. My volume is coming out of this pedal into my interface. So what I've done is made sure the volume is low as possible on my interface, and I'm using the volume from this to drive the signal into the interface, into my computer, and I'm making sure that it's not clipping along the way. So you will need to balance that too. So it's worth pointing out, I'm using my Telecaster here, and my sound is all based around this middle pickup here. So I'm sculpting my sound where it hasn't got too much lows and it hasn't got too much highs. So depending on your guitar, if you've got humbuckers like behind me here, or if you predominantly play on the bridge or the neck or whichever position you're using, you will have to adjust your sound for that. But now I've got my amp set up where I know I've got a bit of headroom, I know I've got a bit of space to go into. I've got my reverb after here, because I feel like an amplifier is never that fun when it's a dry sound like that. This amp actually has spring reverb built in, but I prefer the plate reverb sound myself. And I'm not using that clean sound, like I said, it's just there to provide a base that I can work and put everything on top. So the first thing I like to do is introduce the compressor to my chain, and I put that actually after all of my drive pedals here. So I've got my overdrive and a higher gain overdrive, and I've got my distortion pedal here. That's how I like to have it. I've got 3 different sounds I can use, and these are all going into the compressor pedal here, which is just providing kind of more of a compressed valve style amplifier to the field, and it also helps with me with finger tapping and just balancing out picking parts like so. And this is a fantastic trick for solid state amps. So if you've got a solid state amp, by introducing a compressor, you can get the feeling of the compression that you would naturally get from a valve amplifier. So that's a great way, especially if you're playing shows where you're using solid state amplifiers, or if that's what you've got at home. Everything that I'm showing you here, by the way, today as well, you can find more affordable versions of that as well. I'll leave a bunch of different budget levels in the description below this video. So that compressed sound is not really boosting the volume you hear. Maybe it is a little bit, but I'm just squashing the sound a bit. And for me, that's too much of a clean sound. So what I like to do is introduce my first pedal as my clean sound, as my bass tone, let's say, and it's going to add a bit of a sparkly overdrive to the sound. It's just got that bit of, just that little bit of fizzle on the drive sound there. This is a Mythos Herculean overdrive pedal, and the reason I got this, to be honest, is I want 3 overdrive sounds, and I wanted to take up one less power supply on my power on the 8s that I can have available here. More pedals coming soon here, I should say. But this is basically a blues breaker style overdrive, and it's like a really clean, nice little transparent overdrive sound. So again, boosting the level ever so much there. I was going to say, if you've watched older videos of mine, I've got some pedals hiding down here, and there's a good reason for that. This is the JHS Morning Glory, which is basically the same circuit as this right side of the pedal here. And that's a great, I've used it for years, to be honest, this pedal. I've never sold one, so since I've had that, it's a very good pedal. Just like I said, I found that this sounds exactly the same, and I can have the other pedal, which I'll show you in a second. A cheaper alternative that I used to use before getting the JHS one was this NuX Morningstar, which again is like a blues breaker style overdrive, and it's got this boost mode in it that takes it more into like what would I say, like a Boss Blues Driver Texas kind of driven sound instead. And what I'd like to put on top of that is a higher gain overdrive for when I'm doing more heavier stuff. And again, I want it to sound good with the middle pickup selector here. So this is the tone I've dialed in. And stuff like this as well. And important to me was I wanted to get an overdrive that didn't get too mushy, because I use a lot of like these, major 7 intervals, which clash a lot, and the more gain you add to that, the messier it can become, and especially balancing it with the headroom that you've got in your amplifier. But I think those two stack quite well, and that's what the sound I've got at the moment. So I won't stack another a distortion on top of that, I should say. I'll keep this always on as my bass sound. And then the pedal after that is this JHS Andy Timmons signature overdrive, and this one doesn't suit on the middle pickup selector. I find it's just this really good bridge sound. It's really thick and meaty, and again, I don't really tend to use it a lot in my own music, but I like Andy Timmons and I like learning his songs, and I use it as a high gain overdrive as well. So here's the before sound. And I'll use that. And I'll use that with the, wherever it is, the strap behind me, not really with the Telecaster here. But I find it's a great, really good distortion as well. And of course a lot of noise on single coil pickups there. But is there more that I could show you? Well, I think for now that's all I want, is just setting up these 3 different sounds that I like to use. And like I said, I do want to add a delay to this kind of thing, but it's not really important to what I'm trying to demonstrate you today. All I'm trying to say is that think about the headroom on your amplifier if you're using your pedals into it. And like I said, it's the same if you're using an actual amplifier or using a plug-in on your DAW as well. So if you would like me to demonstrate this as well in another video, let's say we'll go through a similar thing but with my amplifier, and maybe I'll even do it on the computer as well. I've got a few of those Neuro DSP plugins that I like to use as well, so I could demonstrate that on there for you as well. If you have any questions about any of this here, then please leave them down below and I'll do my best to help you. And if you have any suggestions as well for other people, let's help each other out here. That's what this whole channel is about. Then please leave those down below as well. I had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this one too, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.